and this screen matches the definition. I reach bedrock and my spade is turned. And then I'm inclined to say, this is simply what I do. I just call that white. You want a justification? Get lost. This is what I do. There is no definition in my head, no knowledge of meaning in my head that is giving me the right to use the word this way. I just do it, and that's fine. You got a problem with that? You see what I mean? You can't give justifications for your basic uses of words. A definition in your head, it sounds like that would give you a justification, because you say, no, look, it matches the definition. But that's not the way it's working here. You're just doing it. You just are using the word. When I obey a rule, I don't choose. I don't look at the definition and say, does this meet the criteria? I obey the rule blindly. I just say what I do with my eyes shut. There is nothing for me to consult, nothing for me to check. I just talk the way I do blindly. And then there are these passages we glimpsed last time, where he talks about whether you could be doing this on your own. Is what we call obeying a rule, doing this thing blindly, simply doing it. Is that something you could do just once? You just apply the word white just once, and only once, and you're the only one that ever does it. And I take it the answer there is kind of obviously not, he's thinking. If you're operating with a picture of a definition or some instructions for how to use the word, then you could do it once and once only. But part of the point of talking about a custom and institution is to say you couldn't be doing it just once. It's not possible there should have been only one occasion on which someone obeyed a rule. It's not possible there should have been only one occasion on which a report was made, an order given or understood. And hence, since it's not an interpretation, obeying a rule is a practice. And it's critical to this that even although you say, this is simply what I do, you use the word blindly, when I say that's white or that's not white, I can be getting it right or wrong. I can think I'm using the word right, but be making a mistake. I can be making an honest mistake in my use of a word. But how can that be? How can you be making an honest mistake in your use of the word if this is simply what you do and you do the thing blindly? So there's no justification, nothing that you're appealing to should justify your use of the word. You're just doing it. But nonetheless, there are standards of right and wrong here. And you can be being perfectly honest and trying hard to get it right, but you're just not getting it right. How did that happen? It's not like you're violating a rule book. There is no rule book. It is since thinking that you're obeying the rule is not the same thing as obeying the rule, it can't be that you can do this privately. If you were trying to do this on your own, outside a social context, I think this is what he means, outside a social context, then when I was saying this is white or this is not white, me thinking I was getting it right would be just the same thing as me getting it right. The possibility of an honest mistake only comes up because there are other people around who can say, no, this is where you're going wrong. If other people couldn't correct my use of a word, there would be no such thing as getting it right or wrong in my use of the word. You might think, look, I'm going to use the language the way I do, you use the language the way you do. In principle, we could each do this individually on our own. Right? I mean, it's much handier if we all agree to use words in the same way. You see what I mean? Just for getting on and getting instructions and getting help and so on. It's very helpful if we all use words in the same way. But really, we could all just fragment. The idea of the Tower of Babel, where everybody speaks a different language, that makes perfect sense. Right? He's saying that's not true. If everybody spoke their own language, there would be no such thing as truth or falsity in what you said. It's only because there's a context of people all speaking the same language that there can be such a thing as right or wrong. It's not possible to obey a rule privately. Otherwise, thinking you're obeying a rule would be the same thing as obeying it. You see what I think he's saying there anyhow? And you don't have to agree either with whether it's true or with whether I'm reading him right, but you see what I'm saying he's saying? Okay. But what is it for there to be a custom? It can't be just that there are lots of cases in which the word is applied. I mean, how could that help? How does having lots of people applying the word help? I mean, just when we were talking about the causal asymmetry theories, you say, yeah, okay, I see what a causal asymmetry is, but how does that mean there are standards of right and wrong? Here you could say, okay, I get it that when you're using a word, there's no rule book you're trying to stick to the rules of. I'm just doing it, I'm doing it blindly. But how does the existence of a whole bunch of people just doing it or doing it blindly, how does that help? How does that mean that there's right and wrong here? There's got to be something about, I think, if we're understanding what he says, it's something about, he's got this idea of a form of life. Something about the way we find it natural to use the word the way we do, or what Cavell called the whirl of organism. And I think that's the bit that has to be added. This is my reading anyway, that has to be added to this thing about many people. There must be many people around. And so the final thing I want to do is look at this idea of a form of life. Okay, it's a way of explaining what a custom is. Can I go back one? Yeah. So the question is, what is a custom in the use of the word? We know in Putnam's picture what the context is that gives the word meaning. Now we're going to know what kind of context it has to be there for Wittgenstein to give a word meaning. He's saying, to find the standards of right and wrong, you don't look inside the mind of the individual, you look outside of the custom of practice. Then he says, well, what's a custom of? To obey a rule, to make a report, to give an order, to play a game of chess. These are, and I think what he's saying is these are essentially customs, uses or institutions. And if you're going to understand a sentence, you have to understand a whole language. And understanding a language means to be master of a technique. And I think by technique, he means here something like using a tool, like using a chisel or using a saw, that being able to use a hammer and chisel is not a matter of having a rule book in your head. It doesn't really matter whether you have some definitions or rules in your head as to how the chisel should be used. It's just the way you do the thing, the way you attack the wood with the hammer and chisel, that is being master of the technique. And similarly with using a word, it's like using a chisel or using a saw. It doesn't really matter what rules you have in your head. It's whether you do the thing skillfully. And what about this case really arrests me whenever I read it. So here's what I make of this. He says, it is of course imaginable that two people belonging to a tribe unacquainted with games should sit at a chessboard and go through the moves of a game of chess, and even with all the appropriate mental accompaniments. So they have all the right thing. You're playing chess, you think, oh my God, or I can't remember how this moves, or hooray, I've got him, all that, all that stuff that goes together. So they have all that stuff going through their head. And if we were to come upon them, so we come upon them in, let us suppose, a clearing in the jungle, these people who belong to a tribe where there are no games, right? They just don't do games, right? So there's no custom or practice or institution of game playing with these people. But still, you come upon two individuals sitting at a chessboard, going through all the moves of a game of chess, and even with all the appropriate mental accompaniments. And there you might say, but look, they're playing chess. Playing chess doesn't require an institution or custom or context. People could just do it in this way that is kind of out of the blue. It just comes from nowhere. And similarly, you might think, look, someone could just come from nowhere and be talking English. They don't need to belong to a community where there's a custom or practice. They don't need that kind of context. Someone could just land out of the blue. And you might come upon someone on the moon who's never been near the Earth, never been near any other sentient being, but still they're talking English. And he says, look, what he's saying about this is, if you were to see it, you would naturally say this is what's going on. They're talking English or they're playing chess. But he says, look, now imagine that what happens is this. Suppose that a game of chess was translated into a series of actions that you don't ordinarily associate with a game, say into yells and stamping of feet. So suppose you came upon two individuals exchanging a series of yells and foot stamps in such a way that you could translate this back into a game of chess. And you say, wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing? They're playing chess. They're doing it with this thing with the yelling and the stamping of the feet. I got the translation here. Isn't that strange? They belong to a people who have no games. They don't have any customer practice, but I got a way of translating these yells and stamping of feet back into a chess game. Suppose these two people to yell and stamp instead of playing the form of chess that we're used to, and this in such a way that their procedure is translatable by suitable rules into a game of chess. Well, should we still be inclined to say they were playing a game? Well, what right would you have to say so? It would be really arbitrary to say, well, I can make this translation, therefore they're playing chess. And you can say the same thing about someone who you think might be speaking English. Suppose it's just yells and stamping of feet in such a way that you can translate it into English. And you say, well, look, he's you come upon someone in the moon who you can translate to English like that. And you say, look, he's speaking English. The mere fact that you can do this translation doesn't mean that they're really speaking English or that they're really playing chess. So that's one of the things about a custom or practice, that it's not enough that you find someone doing something in such a way that you can translate it into English. Even if it looks just like English, so the translation is just identity. You see between their signs and the ones we use. There has to be some background of custom or institution of which their actions are a part. There has to be some sense in which your actions are a part of a broader institution. You have to belong to a people that really does play games. You have to belong to a people that really does speak English, and your use has to be embedded in that broader practice of custom or institution for there really to be such a thing as getting it right or wrong, playing according to the rules or not playing according to the rules. And here's, I think you say, but now, what is it for a people to have a practice? It's not anything that goes through their heads. It's not something about their use of mental dictionaries or something. Everything about what makes a people have a language or not is open to view. There's nothing hidden here. So what is it? What's the difference between people who are using a language and people who are just doing some arbitrary yelling or stamping of feet? How would you draw that distinction? I mean, suppose you come upon an animal species like dolphins, and you say, look, they emit all these bleeps. I can translate this into American English. Therefore, they're speaking American English. Well, when do you have a custom or practice here and when not? And he gives this example. He says, suppose someone uses a line as a rule in the following way, and it's something like this. You've got a line here, and you've got a pair of compasses. You know what it means? You've got a pair of compasses. You know the thing you use for drawing circles? Do people still do that? Maybe you guys will just use a computer. But in the old days, we used this primitive device for drawing compasses. For drawing circles, I mean, that you've got a spiky bit and you've got a pen bit. You know what I mean? You stick the spiky bit in the... Yeah, and you can vary how big the circle is by varying the... Yeah, it's hard to remember, but yeah, you can vary. Okay, so he's got this, so he's got a line here, and he says, look, the line is my rule, right? And what he does is, he holds a pair of compasses, and he carries one of its points along the line, and he says, this is the rule, and the other one is drawing the line that follows the rule, okay? And while he moves along the ruling line, he alters the opening of the compass, apparently with great precision, looking at the line the whole way. So he keeps looking back at the line, and the compass is moving in and out, and so he goes right. Okay, and you're getting a line something like that. And he keeps doing the thing with great precision, looking at the rule the whole time, as if it determined what he did. And watching him, we see no kind of regularity in this opening and shutting of the compasses. And he says, now you see how it works. Now you can do it. On you go. And you say, I have no idea how that works. Right? That's not that he has a definition in his head that you don't. That's not the key thing. It's just, here he's going on in a certain way from case to case. But you can't learn his way of following the line from it. Now he might be perfectly serious. And you say, look, the original seems to intimate to him which way he is to go. But that's not a rule. This line here doesn't count as a rule. Okay, now, the kind of homework question here is, why isn't it a rule? Wittgenstein's very clear about that. This is not a rule, but why not? He's using that. He says, look, I'm using this to guide me along here. You can't learn from his way of following the line how to go on. But why isn't it a rule? Any offers? Yeah?
I would guess that you want to say because there's no socially accepted custom.
Yeah. Okay. But in what sense isn't there a socially accepted custom? Yep. There's no goal. Yeah, but that sounds like appealing to a definition, though. You see what I mean? I mean, you're right that there isn't a goal, but I think that's what we're trying to explain. If you see what I mean? If you get that, you're home. Sure, if there isn't a goal. But the question is, he's going to say, yeah, my goal is to get it right. You see what I mean? Right. Right. That's not his take. Right. The idea is that there isn't that kind of verbally formulable rule. I mean, with chess, the idea is that bottom, you can try and formulate the rules of chess, and you actually might get it right or wrong. People could play chess, like children playing hide and seek. Yeah? Hide and seek? Okay, right. You can play hide and seek even though you've never written down the rules. Right? I mean, children regularly do that. You just kind of, perfectly obvious how you play hide and seek, right? What you're doing. And the idea is it's like that. So if someone writes down the rules for hide and seek, that's not trivial. You really might get it wrong when you try and explicitly write down the rules. You might miss out some obvious thing. Yeah, I mean something that's obvious when you're playing the game. So yeah, I'll tell you what although I'm not confident about this, I'll just tell you my own stab at this, is that it's because we can't learn from him that there is no rule here. The thing is, that's all it comes to. There are some ways people go on, and you can kind of pick it up and go on in the same way yourself. There are some ways people go on, and you can't pick it up. You can't get it. And that's the whole difference. That's what it takes for there to be a custom. It's for there to be a way of going on here so that other people can pick it up. And that's not because there's some definition or rule that you have in your mind. It's just like hide and seek. There's some way of picking this up. People find it natural to do this. Yeah. So it's not exactly just that there are many people involved. It's that they can pick it up from each other without that involving explicitly forming a rule or having something running through your head. You can just, there's some more primitive phenomenon of getting it. Okay, more on this on Friday. Thanks. Okay.